Planetary Society, the world's largest non-governmental space organization. And I very much appreciate you guys taking the time with us. And it is really, by any reasonable standard, pretty wonkish. This is to say, we are analyzing the budget line by line, and it's very important, it's got to be done. But when it comes time to integrate the human spaceflight, or human mission directorate, human exploration mission directorate, with what we do in planetary science, that's going to be a difficult thing. This is, at very best, a herd of cats, working its way up from the bottom. And this, to me, as a relative outsider, is how it appears. The decadal survey was created by this community. The human spaceflight people, and listen, John, at your recommendation, I applied to be an astronaut several times. I'm a believer. I'm ready to go. That's top down. So what I'd like is your opinion on how, well, of course, how the Planetary Society can help you, but how we're going to integrate the goals of the human spaceflight people with the goals of planetary science. And the deep thing, everybody, I appreciate the budget line items. I love $309 million. I get it. But why are we in this business? We are in this business to find out if we are alone and to find out if there's life elsewhere. That's why we do this. And I sense all the time that every one of these Office of Management and Budget reports, every Office of Science and Technology, every line item, what you call reading chart, PowerPoint presentation, we lose sight of that. Where did we come from, and are we alone? Do you have a way to integrate the human spaceflight people with these people? Thank you.
Come on, Bill, don't you have any passion?
Matt got more applause than Bill and I.
So we're working on that plan. I mean, really. And you're part of that because it's more about what is the narrative for our country having a space program. And it's not a collection of rockets. It's not bits and pieces in space technology or aeronautics or science. If I'm talking to my neighbor who works for some other federal agency or somebody next door who works for a chemical company, so that I can have dialogue that they'll understand on a technical level. It's fun. I can talk about number of solar systems, numbers of rocky Earths, or Mars has a current hydrological cycle. But in the broadest sense, we need to talk about why do we have an asset and bring those together. And it is, I think, very much about trying to look at atmospheres of nearby planets around nearby stars to see if anybody's home. It's about looking at our own solar system. But it's also about going there. So I'm going to take a quick poll. And I'm cheating because I've asked Steve Squires. Is Steve still here? Yeah, there he is. At Opportunity Landing, because I was standing next to Ed Weiler. And I was thinking, boy, I'd never want to be Ed Weiler. But, but here I am. And he is a science hero of mine. But we were talking about opportunity because I happened to be at the Opportunity Landing. And Ed and I got into this little heated discussion about how long it would take Steve Squires to do Opportunity's mission. And I won't tell you the answer to that, but I asked Steve, and I've asked many of you, if you could go to Mars today, if you could be a geologist on the surface of Mars, or an astrobiologist on the surface of Mars, would you want to go? So I'm going to raise my hand. And so, at large, this is why, we need to make these connections between human spaceflight. And Sylvia Earle said this at a famous oceanographer, undersea explorer. When someone said, well, why do you go down? And she said, because I want to go. And it's the human experience, and we're doing this because it's a human experience. We don't send MSL to Mars so MSL can discover things, because it doesn't discover anything. You do. It's a human experience. And it's a really interesting dialogue, because there's another group of folks, and I'll ask, are there any here who say, if we see, examples of, little micro ecosystems where life might currently exist, should we go there and investigate? some people say, no, those are the places that'll be prohibited areas. And so anybody think that, forward planetary protection, that we shouldn't go. And I think we're in Houston, and so one of my other heroes is a guy named John Young, Captain John Young. And when I was interviewed to be an astronaut, there was a guy in a Hawaiian shirt, older fellow, gray hair, about my height. And I walked in and he said, "Hi, I'm John Young." He was shaking all of the interviewees' hands. I'm like, wow. And I don't know who invented this phrase, but John is the one who's used it. There's also a much bigger context, which is single planet species don't survive. I really feel like we have an imperative to go out and explore, and eventually, for humans to leave planet Earth. Now, that's not going to be a compelling driver for the planetary science program. But Bill, we were really asking about the bigger context, and I think that's part of what I'm interested in helping NASA develop. Is why I came back to NASA. I thought that the story was not being told well. But I think we have a great story, and I think planetary science is right at the center of it, and the search nearby and distant for signs of, are we alone in the universe? Is there life out there? Well, I think, we're talking, first of all, my goal, is that, next year's budget looks better. And, we rely on your help for all of that. So, that's the goal here. And so I have certain, I'm a hardware guy. I have certain knobs I can turn, and certain spheres of influence. And I think planetary society, the science community, I think it was Brittany, mentioned, talking to Congress. Well, it's important that you not only talk to Congress, but I really think in the long game, think about, this is a really scary thought, but for many college students, the only science course they will ever take in 4 years of college, maybe a planetary science program, one year, might be an astronomy course. For those of us who have taught, I think the obligation is to try and get them as much science, this general science, as you can, because they are going to be the future decision makers, future voters, future parents, future leaders of business, future legislators, maybe even future presidents. And we have to arm them in that one short, 8 to 9 month period with an enormous amount of science to get them excited and tell them the relevance, not just facts. And some of these higher goals, they're trying to answer fundamental questions, they're burning questions. So I think we need to expand beyond just writing our congressmen, whether you're for or against planetary science, I stand as a disclaimer, but expanding that dialogue much further.
Now, you're in a perfect position this week to go to some of the town hall meetings and hear how